Nick and Cece, we use the phrase run the table like it's nothing, but Nick and I didn't play professional sports, and I would imagine for an athlete that is just a lot of pressure to put on something. We just have to run the table. It's like we just have to get A's the rest of the way, and we're just going to ace the course. Is it unrealistic to think that the Packers with Aaron Rodgers can indeed run the table, win out, and make the playoffs?
It would be unrealistic if they had anyone else in the league at quarterback. When you have the single best player in your sport, except for baseball, I would imagine, where it's one guy can't make that type of impact every single game, then no, it's not unrealistic. It might be, it is more likely than not that they don't do it. Like, they're not a better than 50% chance, but it's not unrealistic. When Aaron Rodgers is the best football player alive, Aaron Rodgers at his best, and I'm not saying we will get peak Aaron Rodgers immediately, but Aaron Rodgers at his best plays the position like Dan Marino at his best, like Peyton Manning at his best, like Tom Brady at his best, as well as anyone has ever done it. When you have a guy at that position that has reached that level, nothing's unrealistic. We've seen this Packers team be 4-6 and make the playoffs. We've seen Aaron Rodgers miss weeks 9 through 16, come back in week 17 in a must-win, and make the playoffs. We have not seen the Packers, you mentioned it, Jenna, miss the playoffs in the last 8 years. The all-time record is 9. So that is a sustained period of excellence due to number 12. So nothing short of it being a sunny 82 in Lambeau this weekend or in Green Bay is unrealistic to me for anything involving Aaron Rodgers.
And as Aaron said, the expectations, that's what they should be. And he mentioned, you know, when you're the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, he didn't talk about just being Aaron Rodgers. He's talking about the legacy from Bart Starr on to Brett and into him. Like, he understands that pressure. And typically, Jenna, he's thrived in that pressure. Nick mentioned he's the best player. All these other things, the biggest challenge is Carolina and Minnesota. You know, so the question is it realistic? Yeah, it's realistic because who Aaron Rodgers is. Well, let's look at the probability. Well, the probability is not as good because of Carolina and Minnesota and the problems that they present. This is not a great matchup for Green Bay. You know, even with Aaron Rodgers, the defense, the problems they'll present, and how good are the wide receivers at Green Bay? Like, we just give them benefit of the doubt. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Jordy Nelson will reappear. All these guys will start making plays, but they have to make a lot of big plays to be able to help Aaron Rodgers out because we don't know how mobile he's going to be. We don't know how many chances he's going to take outside the pocket. So other guys have to step up, and that's their wide receivers. So it's realistic. Can he go to Carolina and beat them, then beat Minnesota next week and then close out with Detroit in week number 17? Yes, but this is one of the biggest tasks that Aaron Rodgers has had his whole career because the team has put them in this hole where they have no margin of error.
Here's my question for you. We talk a lot about missing practice and what that does. When you're playing when you are an elite athlete like Aaron Rodgers, he plays the game almost by rote. He knows it. It's slow. He gets it. He knows what has to be. He knows his personnel. He knows his receivers so well. Does it even matter that he hasn't, or maybe how much does it matter that he really hasn't practiced with the team a lot, where he can just go out there and everything sort of comes back to him?
Well, practice always matters, and it will matter for Aaron. Just like Tom Brady, the last 3 Wednesdays, he hadn't practiced on last 3 Wednesdays, he didn't practice. So we've seen the result on Sunday and in the Monday night game where he hadn't been as sharp. Everyone needs practice. What it does also for the other players have more confidence when they go onto the field. So practice will always be an important ingredient for me as far as determining what guys are going to do on and off the field. And we can't remove practice and think that people are going to get better. Now, Aaron Rodgers is really special, and a lot of the things that he's doing out of shotgun, you don't need a lot of practice for.
I want to go to the thing you mentioned and I touched on, which is the playoff streak. Because I just want to talk about the teams that have made the playoffs 9 straight years. Because that's the record. The record is 9 straight years. It is the San Francisco 49ers in their heyday. Hall of Famers all over the place, Right, CC?
Yes.
That's the team that, by the way, the Patriots were trying to tie their record for consecutive road wins. That team won 18 straight road games. They weren't just making the playoffs. They were winning 11, 12 games almost every year.
Yes.
And you had Hall of Famers on offense, on defense, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, the greatest wide receiver of all time, no disrespect, one of the greatest safeties of all time. The Niners, they did it 9 straight times. The Colts, with a Mount Rushmore quarterback, Hall of Famer and Marvin Harrison, Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis. I know the defenses weren't necessarily well-rounded, but they had elite talent. The New England Patriots are going to tie that record. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, greatest coach-quarterback combo ever. And then the Packers, if they make the playoffs this year. Man, what Hall of Famers Aaron Rodgers playing with? What all-pros Aaron Rodgers playing with? Think about the company he would join.
Yes.
It is Pantheon teams.
Yeah.
He has not been on Pantheon teams. I understand they had Julius Peppers for part of the run. I'm not going to act like our pal Greg Jennings, who is a very good pro, but he would tell you not a Hall of Famer. They've had good players. But those other teams are some of the greatest teams ever for that sustained run. 9 straight playoff bursts. Only 3 teams have ever done it. That's what the Packers are trying to join.
Right, and that's why it's realistic to say, can Aaron Rodgers do this? And what he's been up against, and he's done it with less than anyone that we've seen in the modern era, besides Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady has done less from a wide receiver standpoint, but the team surrounding the coach and the organization have always put a winner out there where how many would have been in a row if Tom hadn't gotten hurt? The Castle year.
Oh, yeah. Well, then it would be they missed it after they won their first Super Bowl. So it would be 03 to now.
Okay.
So they'd be on 15 if not for the Matt Castle year. And that Matt Castle year, they won.
Right, so Green Bay
games.
would be in the same breath,
Right.
which because I don't believe that they will make it. And they'll be in the same way as Tom Brady. Last time he didn't make it, when he got hurt. Green Bay, because Aaron Rodgers missing all those games.
But boy, if they do make it, imagine having him lost the time that he did with the team that they have making the playoffs. But we should mention, it's not like he's going to have an easy go at it. It's not like when Dak was facing the Giants and needed a good game. These guys are playing a very good Carolina defense. Next up for them, a very good Minnesota defense. And then they've got Detroit. So he's got a tough 3 weeks ahead of him.
It's the hardest schedule remaining in the league.
Yes.
They are, I mean, that's not, I'm not just, I mean, as far as wins for your opponent, they're playing 3 straight winning teams, 2 teams that are in the playoffs, 1 team that's looking at a bye in Minnesota. If Detroit, I'm down on Detroit, but they're still 7-6. If Detroit's your easy game, then that speaks to how difficult your schedule is the rest of the way.
Where do you go next, right? So my childhood, kind of growing up, it was a couple of players that I always paid attention to see Joe Montana leave San Francisco. I was just devastated. I'm crushed. I'm like, no way. There's no way you can put on another jersey, right? To see Emmitt Smith at the end of his career go from Dallas and then go to Arizona and then to watch Brett Favre do this. And then you watch. Because I always said,
your
if you're gonna,
well, one of your guys, Brady and Manning are your guys.
They my guys. And then Peyton does it, and I'm like, you got to finish it. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna make a move like that, you got to be able to finish that. And I don't know if Eli.
So what you're saying is, if you're gonna go somewhere, if you're a star player, and you're at the end, you're a traditionalist. I respect that. But you saying, man, I want to see something at the end. I want to see a flicker. I want to see Brett Favre, Montana. I'd much rather see that than you just kind of fade off somewhere.
Yeah, it's just not a good deal.
What if he goes to a contender, though? Would you feel better?
I always said this. What's bigger at the end of your career? 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. What's actually bigger? For me, it's legacy. It really is. Like, I had the opportunity to, in the year 8, 9, 10, to put on a different jersey. You know?
And you were playing as well as you, when you were playing as well as you could. You don't
but there still was a question he went through that, Ray, because you had a contract. Like, we didn't know if Baltimore was going to extend your contract. You was making a lot of money. And they decided to bring, well, y'all mutually decided. Because if you would have wanted to get out of there, you could have gone somewhere else.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that's what I'm saying. I don't trade that in. If you're Eli Manning, you bring 2 Super Bowls to the Giants. You don't let that legacy go to go play a few years in another uniform and try to figure that out. You created what you created. If anything, Eli, trust me, has made enough money, smart enough to keep enough of it. If anything, I'm telling Eli as a friend, man, if you're going to do that, bro, just ride off in the sunset. You had one heck of a career. Forget what they're saying. You know what you've done. But to come back and go and do it somewhere else, I just don't know. I've never been there.
If I'm Eli, I'm trying to come back too.
Yeah.
And for a couple reasons. Number one, the owner said they want me back.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they didn't already fire the general manager. They didn't already fired the coach.
Yeah.
So the most powerful person in town tells me, you know something, Ray, Nick, I want to have y'all next year. You know, so even my streak start, I'm willing to get over that.
Yeah.
Man, there's a dude, man, OBJ. And that's the reason why I'm staying.
I'm not leaving that.
Because I believe with the Giants, I can get to the Super Bowl just as quick as I can than going to Jacksonville with Tom Coughlin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can understand it's nice to have those other opportunities. Like, I wish we would have had a competitive team in Minnesota that I could have stayed there. Because, man, I did not. There was nothing special about me playing in that Dolphins uniform.
Right.
If you saw me in that Dolphins uniform, if you somewhere getting sick to your stomach or in your mouth, just throwing up in your mouth, I totally understand. Because that was awful. That was the worst version of Cris Carter that was possible.
But you also didn't sign, just real quick, you didn't sign with the Dolphins. You didn't leave the Vikings to sign a free agent contract with the Dolphins. You retired. You were hanging out doing inside the NFL. Then they called you up and offered you a bucket of money to play a few weeks, and you took it. Now, you ended up with a lacerated kidney. It wasn't the greatest moments of your life, but it was. You didn't make your choice to leave the Vikings. You were retiring. You were leaving football, and then they drew you back in. So it's a little different.
Yes, but I can understand Ray and his overall philosophy. Yeah. You know, very few people, though, are going to be Tom Brady, Ray Lewis, Derek Jeter. Very few players get that opportunity, that we have to go somewhere else to finish. But if I'm Eli, based on the messaging from the owner, and we know they got cap room, like they can make some moves.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.